Grab a front row seat to the untold stories as we talk about how to live life on your terms. You're officially part of the inner circle. Welcome to Courtside with Courtney. And don't worry, I comped your ticket. Welcome back to another episode of Courtside with Courtney. We were already chatting over here and we decided, you know what, maybe we should turn the mics on because we're getting into like the juicy details of this conversation already. Miss Alex Hodges, everybody.
But we were debating, do we say Alex Bennett or do we say Alex Hodges?
Which intro do we go with? Because
I am in an identity crisis with my last name that I've been in for a long time. Bennett's my married name, but Hodges is my maiden name.
But also no longer married, so don't leave that detail out.
Correct. Divorced. And so that's probably the most important detail. So yeah, I don't know. You can... my Instagram says Bennett, but in the bio below it, it says Hodges.
Yeah, it's like the real ones know.
Yeah, yes. If you know, you know. That's what it is.
I think it's just a weird concept in general, though. Changing your name, I get it. I think like when you meet someone and you want to do it because you want to do it for them, but it is a weird, just speaking, not traditionally, not respectfully, not blah, 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 blah. Speaking only about being the person doing the changing. It's just weird to be known as one name and then all of a sudden be like, wait. Like, it's just strange.
Yeah. Disclaimers aside, I appreciate that you put those out there.
I've been in this business too long not to disclaim.
Not to be like, okay, not to offend anybody.
Not to offend literally anyone. It's just, it's weird. Like I get all the reasons to do it, but it is weird to be known as one thing. And then all of a sudden be like, oh wait, no, that's not the name.
And like guys, like their name, their last name will always be their last name. And it's like truly their identity. And they're just like throwing a tag on us, which is fine. That's fine. Cause we were born with tags too, you know,
but the luggage comes out on the bin and you got to know which one's yours.
My luggage, you know, my bag, those a little bit got one on it. And like I started making it as Alex Bennett and then swapped back to Hodges. And so I find it confusing.
But legally, is it still Bennett?
Yes.
So we'll make our way there. Making my way downtown. Give people a rundown.
Okay.
Tell us who you are for those people who don't know. Obviously, I know. But for those people who don't know, give us a bit of a rundown for anyone new to you.
Okay. Hi, new people. My name is Alex.
Just Alex, like Madonna.
It's literally just Alex. Yeah. I'm trying to get that handle right now on Instagram, just Alex.
Oh, but I love it.
He's got it and he lives in another country and he said I could pay him $1,000 in crypto. I accepted. Stop. I said, fine, I'll send it to you in crypto. And then he'll like ghost me and then I'll come back and he'll be like $1,100 in crypto.
He's playing hard to get.
And I'm like, just give me the name. But I know if I give him the crypto, then I won't get the name. So we're in a bit of a thing right now.
Bit of a standoff.
Yes. And he has all the power. But I'm willing to buy it.
Hate that.
Hate it. But anyways, okay. So my name is Alex Hodges Bennett, I think legally. And I'm a podcaster. I'm a new mom. I have a little 2.5-month-old named Tate. She's a girl, not it.
I love her name.
Thank you.
Really cute.
Thank you. I really love her name too. I look at her and I just think cute name. I have been making content for 3 years, podcasting for 2.5. I have 2 podcasts. I'm a co-host of a podcast called Mean Girl Pod, which I started at Barstool Sports with my best friend and co-host Jordan Woodruff, who still lives in New York. And also the co-host of a podcast called Just Alex, which I talk about like baby things on with my boyfriend, baby daddy. His name's Harrison. And I recently moved to Austin in July because I didn't want to raise my little girl in New York. And I'm originally from Oklahoma City.
Amen, girl.
That's the skinny.
Okay. So you were living in New York when you were at Barstool.
Yep.
How did you get into all of that?
So I started during COVID. I was living in LA and I started going home to Oklahoma City a lot because they were like way more open, obviously.
Yeah.
And my parents lived there and I just started, I was working in a marketing job, but I just started making these TikToks of my mom and it would be like her ordering groceries at home, you know, like sanitizing them. And people just felt like my mom was their mom and the videos would like go really viral. And so I thought, wow, I knew people were starting to like make money in content.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh my gosh, if I could get enough followers and start to make money on it, maybe I could quit my job and I could do this instead. And like, that would be fun. And so I gave myself a 3-month runway. And I said, if I can make more in content than I do in my corporate job, then I can quit and I can do this. And I did it.
Amazing. Good for you.
It was great.
That is no small feat, especially in 3 months. Like that is a quick turnaround, I feel like. Okay. So tell me, how did you get in with Barstool? Give me the rundown on that. So 3 months in, you're making more doing content than your corporate job. And you say, now I can justify leaving.
Sorry. Okay. So what happened was the way I made it, the money, the way was because I got the job at Barstool.
Got it.
Because they pay you a salary.
Got it.
So it wasn't like I was doing brand deals. It was like I had a salary. And that salary was more than I was making at the marketing job. So
from being on their network.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that was 2.5 months in.
Okay.
So I like beat my deadline. And the way I got that job was Alex Cooper had just left and Dave put out a tweet saying, looking for the next female, like something like need a new female content creator. I don't know. So I made a video and I was like, my name's also Alex. I have blonde hair, but instead of like call her daddy, I call my mom. And I like mashed in all the videos of like me and my mom.
Cute.
And so that's how I got the job.
I love that.
It was great.
And how long were you there?
2 years.
Okay. So I started following you post this era. That's why I'm kind of catching up.
I love it.
So I've listened to episodes and I'm like, do my due diligence there, but I want to hear it from you and I want to explain it to other people. That way they know how we got where we are. I think that's important. So 2 years there.
2 years there. Learned so much. It was the best.
Were you guys actually going into office?
Yeah, we would go into office.
Was that a fun culture? I feel like it'd be wild.
It was so much fun. And like, the time didn't exist in the office. Yeah, it was a blast. It was so much fun. And New York was fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's how I met my co-host. Like, we would go in together. You would like sit in these rooms. Like, I don't know. It's just you would podcast. You would make content. Like, it's a true content house.
Yeah, I love that. It's so fun. So you didn't know her before?
No,
you
I
guys
didn't know
met
her.
at Barstool. Oh, cool. Are you guys still super close? Because you still do the podcast, obviously. But since you're not in New York anymore, do you still get to have the same time?
Like, we're going to LA tonight together, and it's definitely been hard with the baby, right? Like, that took the biggest hit of like my time and things like that. And we podcast now mainly virtually, but like, she came here, we'll go to LA together and we'll make it a thing to meet up and like do episodes because they're better in person.
So much better.
So much better in
but
person.
Kind of is what it is for the rest of it. It's like,
yeah, you do what you can.
Form, yeah.
Totally. And it's like cool that we can do it via Zoom, but I would rather be in person. And I know she would too.
Yeah, it's nice to connect. What part of New York were you in?
I lived in West Village, and then I moved, after the divorce, I moved down to Tribeca.
Okay, amazing. Is that fun, that area?
Both I love.
Yeah, I love New York. I'm going in like a week, I think.
Where do you stay when you go?
Well,
Area.
I'll tell you off.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good.
I'm going in a week. And what hotel is that going to be at?
Room number.
Yeah, like, that's safe.
But I do have like a very niche place that I love to go.
I love New York.
It has a different energy.
Oh, I start to crave it and then I'll go. But what I've realized is because a lot of people in Austin are transplants.
Yeah.
Right. And mainly from New York and LA. And like, I really get that. I get going there. It's cocaine. New York is cocaine. Right. And it's
and the energy is...
It's like cocaine energy. Like, you go and everyone's just like, go, 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 go. But then it's so nice to come back to Austin where there's still tons going on.
Yes.
And people have this like, I love the mentality here, but it's not so hardcore.
My only beef with Austin, so I grew up here. I've lived here since I was like 2. And I've lived intermediately, like all over. I've lived in Dallas. I've lived in Boston for 4 years. I went to school there. Like I've lived in LA. I've lived all over, but I grew up here. Majority have been back here since like 2014, I think. So it's been a hot minute now. My biggest beef with Austin is like, if you grew up here and if you've been here for a while, I can't go someplace without seeing somebody I want to know, like that I know. And there's so many times when it's like not the person I want to see.
It's never, God has never given you the person you want to see.
God said, not today, my friend.
No, I'll go into the grocery store when I'm at home and be like, just don't let me see. Oh, here she is.
It's almost like, do you manifest it?
You do. I think if you think of it, you manifest it.
Yes. Like there's been so many times when I'm like, I'm just going to go get a coffee. And then like it's not ever who you want to see.
Have you heard of Pronoia?
No.
So it's like the opposite of paranoid. but it's like you're pronoid.
Oh.
So instead of being like, I really don't want to see her, because you just thought about her and like you kind of put it into the universe.
Yeah.
You think I do want to see this person. And like,
then they won't be there.
well, no, but that person will be there, but we're just asking in the wrong way.
Okay, so wait, what do I do? I need a rundown.
Okay, so like you're paranoid that you will see Barbara and you don't want to see Barbara.
Fuck you, Barb.
And then Barb's there. But it's because you're just thinking about her.
I manifested her.
Exactly. So pronoia is like, okay, well, who do you want to see? Tim?
Okay. So don't pretend like I want to see Barbara. Just actually say who I want to see.
Yeah, like instead of I don't want to see Barb, I want to see Tim. I hope I go to the grocery store and I see this person because I always love seeing them. Or I hope I see no one.
I mean, that might be the thought. I think the older I get, I'm curious if you feel this way, the smaller the circle gets.
Oh, 4 shiny quarters, not 100 dull pennies.
I mean, like it is just without a doubt. Every year something happens and I'm like, 2 more out.
Oh, yeah, I want you. Everyone can eat, but not at my table.
No, seriously though. It really does just get smaller and smaller.
Yeah, did you used to be a people pleaser and like you were friends with everyone?
So. I think not. I've always like stood up for what I believed in. So it wasn't like people pleasing in that sense, but I think not in like I think some people use gossip to connect with other people and they people please. And I don't really fuck with people like that. I have always been very like ride or die, but I think I've given my loyalty to the wrong people, if that makes sense.
Oh,
you know?
Yes, I do think that gossip is a false sense of bonding.
Yes.
Like you think you're connecting because you're like all hating on one person, but you walk off and it's like there was no connection.
And the thing is that look, when you, with your like inner circle of people, with your 3 best friends and your mom, like talk your shit.
Oh, there's a time and a place.
There is a time and a place and I'm here for that. But like, but a means to an end. If you're just like, oh my gosh, did you see? And you're using it to bond, it will bite you because guess what? The people that you're doing that with, the people that are doing that with you are doing it about you.
No question. And it's hard. It is hard to sit down with like a new group of people. Because like I'm in the friend making phase here, right? Because I'm obviously new to Austin. And like I knew a good amount of people. But to like really make friends, it's like I'm 31, new mom. And then in the phase of like, okay, making new friends. And so you sit down and to take your mind, you know, because some people will start to talk about, you know, maybe other people.
Yeah.
And to automatically be like, no, and have to think of other subjects is like a really powerful exercise, mental gymnastics. And it's like, to say we're not doing that because like you can't show up and ever do that about somebody either early on. I think it says a lot about you.
For sure.
So
it's like and that's what I'm saying. It's like, look, if you're best friends with someone and you trust them implicitly and like you guys know the same person and this thing happened, it's like, I get it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, I've never told my friend a story. That's not what I mean. But like using gossip to bond with people, like you said, is a really false sense of closeness. And I can guarantee that they're doing that about you too. So it's like finding people too, because that gets old too. Don't you feel like it's draining?
Well, you leave and you just feel, ugh.
Yeah, it's not like a good feeling. I want to be surrounded by people who talk about ideas and things like that, right? Because I think you leave and you're inspired and you're like, holy shit, like I have so many cool ideas and I want to go and do that and go to this place or try this new thing or get creative and do that. And I just think like there's something different about someone that can bring that type of energy. So I think I was people pleasing in maybe like a less traditional way. Like I think I just thought I like saw the best in people I thought people had the intentions I had. And I realized that just isn't the case for a lot of people. Right. And then I kind of quickly realized like, okay, not so much. And then smaller. And I think too, the older you get, I have a 7-year-old and the older you get and, you know, as a mom, it's like, you have less time. You have your passions, you have your family, you have your kid, you have your partner, you have your, you know, whatever else, your job that you hopefully love and a couple of close friends. And that's kind of it. Like, what else do you have time for? So it's sort of like along the way, it almost becomes like JOMO rather than FOMO, where you're like, you enjoy, look, the person that invited me to their birthday party that I barely know, it's like, I appreciate the invite. And there was a time when I felt obligated to go because it's your birthday and I want to be there and I'm so happy you invited me. I don't feel that way anymore.
Right. And I think on the receiving end of like, you also have to know You can't take it personally when people don't show up anymore either, because they're also protecting their little crew.
Completely.
And everyone's like skin is just thicker. But like your original question, like, do I notice that the older I get? Like, yes. But also I'm watering those friendships, those close friends more too.
But that's because when you shed the other people, you have time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Like, I think too, the expression like friend to all is a friend to none.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to be everyone's best friend, can you really be anyone's best friend?
Oh, so we were talking about this the other day. Sometimes people, they go so wide because they want to be everyone's favorite that they forgot to hit the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
The people they really connected with.
Yes.
I like that friend to all, friend to none. And that's what it was.
It's 100%. And you feel that. And then those friendships stay shallow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because they don't have room.
Yes. You can never get super deep with them. Yeah. It's totally a thing. And if you told me this when I was 25, 28, I would have been like, I think I get it. But like, I didn't really get it. I wasn't like living it.
Yeah, you have to live it. I was going to say that.
Yeah, but you say it to me now and I'm like,
You've experienced it. And then you have a kid and you're like, oh, priorities, like everything just sort of shifts and evolves, which I think is natural and really good ultimately. But I do think it takes like cutting down just like the amount of people and something about like the bar has to change. Like the barrier to entry has to change. Like, I don't know. I really have to like feel it with somebody.
Oh, I completely, number one, it is a vibe. And like,
yes,
not to use the term vibe in that sentence, but it is a vibe.
It's a vibe. And if you don't have it, are you ever going to get it?
No, you cannot create it.
Can't create a vibe.
Cannot create a vibe. It's just there or it is not there.
Yeah.
And most of the time, how do you feel about this? Do you think your first vibe is always accurate, or do you think you'll go back and try again and see?
I think if you're in a good mental headspace, and like you've healed from your own shit, your first vibe is usually accurate. I think sometimes in life we haven't healed from our own traumas or whatever. And sometimes we can project like our fears or insecurities or whatever on other people. And then I think that's not necessarily on them. But I think like if you feel like you're coming from a pretty like grounded, rooted place, your first vibe is probably right.
So are you likely to give somebody a second chance, or you're kind of going to ride on the first vibe?
I'm kind of going to ride on the first vibe.
Yeah, that's fair.
How do you feel?
Oh, I'm riding on the first vibe, and unless I'm riding on the first vibe. Now, if I end up in a social setting with them again, I'll go for round 2.
Yep.
But I'm not like extending the end. I'm not going to go out of my way.
Completely agree. I also think if you are really close with someone that's close with them and they like vouch for them and they're like, no, I promise, like they're just a little awkward at first or socially this or that. I'm like, okay, like if I trust you and you vouch for somebody, it's different. But if you're random, no.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Because I just don't, my instincts have always served me. And the only genuine times I've regretted things in my life were when I didn't listen to my instinct.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and that's the worst. It's like this little, like even like this nugget of like self-abandoning something. And then like you're like, fuck, I knew it.
When was a time that you didn't listen to your instinct and it bit you in the butt?
A lot of times.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I was younger. I think like even in like certain friendships where I just felt like I never connected with the person. I didn't feel like they were genuine.
Oh, and you just knew.
And I just knew they weren't genuine. But I was like, you know what? They're trying a lot. They seem nice. Like they're saying that they want, their friendship for the right reasons. Like so-and-so likes them. Like, okay, I'll give it a go. And then like it always ends poorly.
Every single time.
Yeah. Because and not poorly in like things blow up, but it's just like you see one little glimmer of something and you're like.
Or you became too fast friends and then you have to undo that.
Yeah.
Which is awkward because you're like, we were texting a lot and now I'm scaling back.
Yeah. And then you like tell them everything about your life.
Oh.
Cause like I'm an inherent oversharer. I feel like if you sign up to create content on the internet and like you talk for a living, like you probably are sort of an oversharer.
Comes with the territory.
Consciously filtering myself lately because I have found like there's certain things where it's like you see some nugget about you somewhere and you're like, well, I only told 4 people that.
And how did that get out?
So I have this new thing that I kind of want to start doing.
Which is what?
Like fake info.
Oh, yeah. Plant the seed.
Yeah.
And then see if it gets out.
That's right.
Tell certain people.
One person.
And write it down.
That's right.
Yeah. That's so good.
Right?
yeah, like Beth knows this story and it's not true. And that story leaked. So Beth leaked it.
Right. So Beth is the mole. Because sometimes you're like, okay, look, I see a lot of like made up shit about me all the time. And then there's some stuff where you're like, well, that one thing was weirdly accurate. And like the call is coming from inside the house, you know?
What did the Kardashians say? Like there's a snake in the circle. And there was, because Kim was planting fake stories and one got out.
I see. Okay. I haven't watched the Kardashians in years, but okay. So this is a theory. This has been tested and the theory works, is what you're telling me.
Correct.
Good to know.
Correct. I also had something leak and I thought only a couple people knew that. Huh.
And what do you know?
But I wish I only would have told 1, not 7, because I don't know which 7.
But it's one of the 7. And then it makes you not trust anyone. And then you're looking around like,
oh yeah, you're like, it's like the Spider-Man meme and they're like pointing at each other. Okay, I don't know if you experienced this, but it took me a while to realize that I was experiencing this, which was like, I would always say I was trusting my gut. But what I was trusting was my learned gut, like the gut that like I was taught.
Experience.
Yeah, my experience gut was like this gut, but the gut that I was trusting was the gut of like what everyone in my whole life has always told me. So it wasn't like my real gut. And then I had to like learn the other gut of like my true gut.
Yes. I feel like we almost call that like the social gut because it's kind of like what you are programmed to believe.
Yes.
Like I'm big on not really dealing with like society's timeline for things because it was like I did that. I was dating someone and then I got married when I was 26 and then I did this and I did that and it didn't pan out for me. Can't speak for everyone else, but it's like for me, it didn't work because it really, in my heart of hearts, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is my end all be all. This is my person. It was just like, wasn't like I sat there and self-analyzed in the way that I should have. This is the biggest decision of my entire life. Like, is this person? It was just kind of like from what I knew at the time, it's that time everybody's getting engaged. I got engaged. Great. It's like, I think that's the social gut, right? That's the gut of like everyone else, essentially. It's the collective taught, maybe not learned, taught.
Yes. Impressed upon you gut.
Yes.
And you just you're like blindly following it.
Yeah. And that's really not the gut at all. It's more just like those voices, the voices in your head, but the voices that you hear and repeat that are like, do this. And this is the time. And when you're this, you do that. And it's like, all that stuff's like actually just kind of bullshit. It's about your timeline and what works for you and your situation. And that's not to say that someone can't meet their person at 26 and get married. That works out great for people.
Oh, yeah.
I just wasn't that person.
And when the other gut started talking to you, was it like, did it freak you out?
Yeah. I mean, that one was sort of, and I think that's the one oftentimes we suppress, right?
Oh,
because
it's easier.
The right thing to do is often the harder thing to do.
Yes.
And I think that it's often the scarier thing to do. So in those moments where you're like, oh, should I really be doing this? You're like, that's just, and the fucked up thing is that our society layers, it's cold feet. Everybody worries about that. Everybody wonders that. It's like, oh, it's butterflies. No, bitch, that's anxiety.
Yeah.
That's not butterflies.
They're right beside each other.
Yes. Like anxiety and butterflies are neighbors. And one house you want to go in and one house you do not. And I think it's the same thing with, it's, these feelings are normal. Everybody says these things are normal. And so you learn to stop trusting yourself. It's the same way that our society says boys will be boys. And then it's like those boys grow up and do dark shit. And it's like, no, humans need to be humans. Like, it's not boys will be boys. Like, it's just cold feet. It's like, no, maybe that is your gut saying like, I'm questioning this.
But it's hard to differentiate.
Yeah.
But it's not. You know what? It's easy to say, oh, it's hard to differentiate, but it's not.
It's hard to do it.
Yeah. It's real hard to say, to really
and people
admit it.
For the longest time, people would come up and they would ask me, how did you know that you needed to get divorced? I don't know if you get that question, but how did you know? And it's like, if you ask me that question, you know the answer.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so true. You just go sit in a room for 5 minutes silently, uninterrupted, and you'll know.
Oof.
You'll know.
Can I tell you the worst place on earth?
What?
When I wasn't in the best headspace in that capacity, I went into a float tank.
Oh.
Not on purpose. I mean, I went in on purpose, but I didn't go in thinking it was going to be this like exercise of, truth, finding myself or something. Go into the float tank, sit in the silence in the dark, get answers real quick. You want to get out of that thing real quick.
Yeah, I bet you wanted to scream.
Yeah.
You're essentially alone with your thoughts.
Right.
With
but
no
like
distraction.
the deepest center of alone with your thoughts. You know, because even in your house, you're on your bed and you're comfortable and you have your coffee and your journal and your thoughts are there, but so is your favorite blanket and the candle and you know what I mean? And it's like, you're in the float tank alone.
No, I like understand.
You might as well be on Mars.
It was probably like coming up.
Yeah.
Out of
so
you.
I think your advice on sit alone for 5 minutes is the best advice. And the real answer too is no one can answer that but you.
No one can. There's no like recipe.
No.
Like it's in your head and you know.
Yeah.
But will you do it? I don't know.
So when did you get divorced?
I got divorced. I got married when I was 25 and I got divorced like legally I was 30, but he like moved out when I was 29.
That is always a sort of confusing. And I know you've said that too. It's sort of like, is it when you filed? Is it when, who knows?
Right,
who cares?
Right. Like, yeah, I don't know which answer you want, but like, yeah.
Yeah. When you got married, did you know? Were you like?
No, when I got married, it was the 100% right thing. It was in my soul. Like, yeah. That was exactly what I should have been doing. It was exactly what I wanted to do. I had no idea.
What changed?
Everything changed. Like, you know, we were both from Oklahoma. And when we got married, he was the one that had me move out of Oklahoma. Like he had said, you know, he'll never live in Oklahoma again. And like, didn't really want to and had all these like ambitious dreams. And I was like, cool.
What does he do?
Well, when we first started dating or when we first got married, he worked for a steel company and then a nonprofit. We were also never going to live in Oklahoma. But when we were living in New York, he told me, he was like, I want to move back to Oklahoma City, like maybe work for the family. I'm not really sure.
Okay. So what he told you, his ambitions, his sort of direction for you guys as a family and everything was not the direction that he actually ended up driving the car.
Correct. And then I drove, I loved this path he had painted. And it's actually a lot more the direction that I went.
So maybe that's the reason then. That you wouldn't have ended up where you were had you not. You know what I mean?
I do believe that. And I owe him getting me out of Oklahoma. Like he taught me so many things and like set me down this trajectory of life that I don't know I would have had the guts to do if I wasn't with him.
Right. So maybe even though he didn't go down that path or the path wasn't right for him for whatever reason, the path ended up being right for you.
Exactly. And so very thankful for that. No regrets.
I'm such a big believer. I can't believe you just said no regrets because I was just going to say to you, I'm such a big believer in that. Look, I have times in my life I regret in the sense that there were situations I shouldn't have even given someone the time of day, decisions I made I'm not proud of, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't regret things in the sense that like, who's to say that I would be where I am today if I made all those different, if I turned in different areas or taken a left here instead of a right, like would I be where I am? So it's hard to like regret something. You know what I mean?
I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately. I don't know. Even the greats, some of them that are dead. I don't know if you've ever like read memoirs. They're my favorite thing to read. You know, like so Phil Knight, the guy that founded Nike. Mm-hmm. Like I love reading those stories.
The Shoe. I have that.
Shoe Dog.
Yeah, I have that book.
Phenomenal. And it's like even him who arguably could have made a lot of bad choices. He's like, they were compounding good choices actually. Like he's like, I wouldn't have the knowledge I'm sitting here with you today had I not have failed that many times.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so every time that happens to me where I think, do I regret that? I think, no, need it. Like who is successful that was like, oh, I made all the right choices and nothing was ever hard.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to like earn it.
Totally. And I think the same is true in business. The same is true in friendships. The same is true in relationships. Like you got to fuck up sometimes. And you have to do that too, to know what you have when you have it.
Yes, perspective is
Perspective, gratitude, like that's what it's about. It's not about being perfect. It's not about never messing up. It's about learning and growing and evolving and saying, you know what? I fucked up. I'm sorry. I'm moving forward. Like it's not about being perfect. That's a hard, impossible way to live. And if that's what you're chasing, you will never get where you're going.
Well, don't you think too, like I call them like tokens under your belt, kind of. Like had we not have had the divorce, which was hard, right? Like
shitty thing, objectively shitty.
Dark, hard, society views it one way. Okay, gave me a whole hell of a lot of perspective where I landed. You know, I don't know that I would like be so thankful for where I landed if I hadn't come from that.
Completely.
If everything had always just been sunshine and roses.
Completely. And I think sometimes too, something can look like a rose and then actually just have a lot of thorns. Pricks you, you bleed, you toss it in the trash.
Yeah.
Like it's part of life. And I do think perspective gained is the most important thing. And then who you are today, who you are at your core, how you evolve. Because look, at the end of the day, if you're the same today as you were 10 years ago, I genuinely pity you.
Correct. Yes.
So people that like shit on other people for making mistakes and stuff, it's like, have you not made mistakes? Are you the same?
Right.
As you were 10 years ago? Because if you are, like, you're the person I feel bad for.
When people say, oh, she's changed, I say thank you because imagine if I hadn't.
Same. The amount of people that say that. And it's like, so you were creating content when you were married. You had a very different life.
Very different.
Got divorced. He was driving the car the wrong direction. You realized, you know what? I actually want to stay in this car on this road, but not with you.
Correct.
So he gets ejected.
Yep.
You were driving.
Mm-hmm.
You meet your now boyfriend when?
I met him. So July, 5 months later.
Okay.
I thought whenever I got divorced, I thought I was going to be single for like 5-6 years. Always wanted a family, but I was like, that'll happen way later.
Which is super common these days. So nothing like.
I was great with it.
Yeah,
I was like, we'll
easy.
just have some me time. Yeah. Like didn't really care where I landed. Wasn't looking like too far in advance. Mm-hmm. Just knew like the whole relationship, the whole family thing was going to be way later in life. Like
knew.
Exactly.
I knew.
And then I go on a date. I was set up on a date with him, and
by who?
By a mutual friend who maybe she's an investor of his. Maybe they kind of do like loose business things together. So she knew him professionally, which I liked. And then I knew her socially.
Okay.
And she just put us in a group text the next day, and we went on a date like 3 weeks later, and like we joked like we're still on that first date.
I love that.
Yeah, it was great. So
why? How did you know? Like, what was had you been on other dates between like divorce and
a couple? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had been. Yes, I had. Yeah. And those were like fine, and then like, I also didn't really want to date because I missed the first date with him. He lived in LA. I lived in New York. He came to New York one time, and I was like, I just can't do it. Missed that date because I wasn't ready yet to go on a date. And then he came back, and I was like, okay, I'm in a good headspace. Like, I'll go today. And I went, and like, I think if you asked me if I believed in love at first sight before, I would have said no. And it wasn't like at first sight, but it was like the third hour.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wait, I like love at third hour. And probably like definitely didn't say I love you right then. But looking back on it, I was like, oh, that was the feeling that I felt.
Yeah.
We joked like we were either going to end up like hating each other after it. And it would happen fast, within the first 2-3 weeks, hating each other, like dead in the ditch or like having a kid type. Like passion. And then, and her name's Tate.
Oh, wait. So when did you get pregnant with Tate? How many months into dating?
2.5, 3.
Nice.
Like unclear. Like she was born September 17th, and like the math backwards on that.
Kinsley's birthday is the 23rd.
Really?
Very close. Yeah.
What? I don't know what they are.
That's Virgo, Libra. Like I think it's the 22nd is
the line. There's like the line's close.
Virgo. So Tate's a Virgo.
Yeah, because my due date was the 22nd.
Kinsley's on the, I think, changeover day or day after the changeover day. So she's a little of both.
Yeah, she is. Because I was due the day. Yeah, you're right. So I don't know when that means we conceived, but give or take somewhere between 2 to 3 months.
Did you pull the goalie or was the goalie already pulled?
I never had a goalie.
No goalie in the game.
No,
playing without a goalie.
Playing without a goalie. I tried birth control when I was like in college and cried every day and like
brutal.
Hated it. Yeah. Yeah. And we were like trying to have a kid.
That is people's experience. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like sometimes people are like, is that an accident? And I was like, no, that is on purpose. Yeah. And it took me like,
I love that.
We were probably like 2 months in, did we start trying to have a baby?
Okay. I love that.
He's 35. I was 31. And so we were like, let's do it. Like,
you're just ready.
You're who I want to do it with. This is great. Love you. Let's ride.
I love that. When did you guys say I love you?
We said I love you in the middle of December at some point. So like a month and a half in.
Yeah.
Is that wild when you want to say I love you to someone?
Yeah. I think it just sort of like comes out.
Yeah.
Eventually.
And you're like, what is this like thing? Okay. Because you were talking about how how people say like, keep giving it a second and, keep going on dates with him. Like you might. Yeah.
No.
Like who has the time?
Who has the time?
Not a real thing. Or it could be for some people, but not for me.
No.
Not for you.
I think it depends on your personality.
Oh.
Like I think that some people don't have the like boom personality. I think some people are slower to open up, in which case I think if you're extremely slow to open up, I think maybe harder to identify that for quite a long time.
If I had to give that person a job, I would say they'd be like an accountant.
Yes.
That would be like okay with waiting and really like a calculated. They were probably checking boxes like, okay, well, this person can provide for me long term.
Right.
Or is an emotionally aligned with me. Whereas maybe you and I are more like gut feeling.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, I had a conversation about this recently, but I think, sometimes you have to learn to bifurcate and like sift out the noise and bifurcate between like, am I liking this like projection of me? Like, am I making this person special or like, is it them?
What do you mean? Am I making this person special?
I think sometimes we fall in love with reflections of ourselves or what the person is reflecting back to us about us, but we don't really love them.
Oh, so it has everything to do with you.
Yeah.
And that's not really sustainable.
Yeah. And then I think sometimes because people present a like fraudulent version of themselves, sometimes people say what they think that you want them to say. And then I think people often find themselves in situations where they thought, I thought I knew this person, and 2 months in, they changed. And it's sort of like they didn't necessarily change. They just weren't showing you who they were. And then slowly you pull this thread and this whole thing unravels, and you pull this thread and this part unravels. And it's kind of like, does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you know, you just helped me realize, which I've never realized, was somebody the other day said, like people are in their honeymoon phase at the beginning, right? So it's their best foot forward. So one of my friends posted that the advice her mom gave her about dating somebody was like, go through 2 holiday seasons before committing to a lifetime with them, because the first holiday season, they're putting on a show and their best foot forward. The second holiday season is their real self. Well, I obviously didn't give that amount of time to Harrison and I just,
that seems like
it's a long period of time. Then I just realized with my ex-husband, well, we had 8. And it wasn't until the latter amounts that I realized, oh, this isn't working. Yeah. So I've just debunked the whole thing in my head. Because
I don't think I don't agree with that statement. I think 3 months. I think 3 months in, people cannot hide their shit. I think that's how it is.
I think it's after whenever adversity hits you for the first time. That's when I think you find.
Totally. And sometimes like in a situation, sometimes you have adversity first week.
Absolutely. And that's when I think people's true colors show.
Completely. And I think too, it's like oh God, what's the Noah Kahn lyric where he's like, I saw how you stood up. Right. And it's like, life knocks you down, or like a situation knocks you down, or someone knocks you down, something knocks you down. It's like, it's how you stand up.
That's so true though.
It's not just like, were you perfect the whole time? It's how you stand up. Look, I hated this thing that you did, or this adversity happened, or this hard thing happened. How did you stand up? And I think that's what it's measured on. So to your point, when you experience adversity, it's just like, then you see, how is someone when they're mad? How is someone when things don't go their way? How are they under stress, under pressure? Like those kind of things.
Yeah, under pressure, I think you really see.
That's why The Bachelor like doesn't work that well for most people, The Bachelorette or whatever. It's because they're sending you to an island somewhere with no problems. It's like most people can have fun in that situation. But like when the adversity hits, when the issues, it's like, then how is someone handling that? And I think that's what you have to take into consideration. So you knew the first date, you were like hour 3, love at first sight.
Yeah, I remember I was like walking behind him and I like took a photo, and I remember being like, I'm like so like I cannot, you know what I remember saying, I was like, I cannot believe It's when you're not looking. I had always said till I was blue in the face, you're going to find your person when you're not looking. And like, I was not looking at all. And I was just like, I mean, it's just this, I'll go on this date because it could be fun. And maybe we'll go on a couple dates.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, oh.
It was the vouch for him thing. Like someone you knew vouched for him essentially and was like, check it out.
Totally. And I think you treat people better when somebody vouches for you, like as opposed to like, I was never on the dating apps, but I think if you were and you go on these dates, like people can just be assholes to you and vice versa because no one's like holding you accountable as opposed to if
when you know someone that knows. Yeah.
Yeah. You show up like, and I knew he was going to, we at least had to report back to her, both of us. Like we had a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this can't be that bad. And it was like great.
The Charlie's Angels. Like Charlie. Okay. So you knew pretty much right away. You guys got pregnant with Tate 2.5-ish months in. How was the conversation surrounding that decision? Like how did you guys even start having that conversation? Because obviously it's untraditional.
Yeah, it is untraditional. And
which I'm always in support of things that are just right for you and untraditional. So I want to say that.
Thank you.
I don't mean that in like any negative connotation whatsoever. It's just obviously it's untraditional, which I think is good because I think a lot of traditional things typically don't play out.
I think I lived so traditional for so long that
buttoned up.
Yes, by the book, just doing all the things that I was supposed to do. And getting divorced was not traditional, right? Like I'm from Oklahoma. It's just I
broke the shell, broke the mold, pulled the curtain back.
I couldn't say the D word for so long. I would like tell my friends we were going to separate. They'd be like, and get back together. And I'd be like, no, forever.
Yeah, no, permanently separate.
You're getting divorced. And I'd be like, well, if that's the word you want to use.
Mine.
Yeah. I'm not divorced. I'm separated.
Yeah.
And so I think that following my heart on that gave me like permission to like follow my heart.
Courage.
And yes, courage. And so whenever I met him and we were talking about like what life looked like for the next, couple of years, I don't know who said it first. I think him of like, I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I've done everything I want to do so far. One thing I do want to do is have a family. And I was like, same, like that's the missing gap and like this like fulfillment around that. And so that was the conversation. And, we said we would give ourselves a year to like get pregnant because I didn't know how long it would take. And, God willing, but it happened a lot faster than
Give yourself a year before.
Like trying IVF or something.
Oh, okay.
Just because, for everyone it looks different and I didn't know what it would look like.
Yeah.
And so, it looked like it was going to happen really soon.
Sometimes there's a plan.
Yeah. Yep. And I always trust the plan. And so that was the plan.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So far, so good.
I love that. So you guys found out you're pregnant. Was there still shock there? Has there been any desire like, oh, should we get married? Or was it like, we're doing things in our own order, in our own way, what works for us?
I went to Vegas for NFR in the middle of December last year. And he came and we like joked. We're like, we would get married here, but we decided not to because like our families weren't there. And we were just like, let's not. And then I found that I was pregnant like beginning of January. And at that point I was like, let's not get married because listen, I'm only going to get more swollen. And I was like, I don't want the photos.
Speaking of vibes, that is not the vibe you were looking for.
It was not the vibe. I was like, oh, this is, and I didn't feel good. Like I automatically felt like shit day one.
Yep.
And I was just like, I didn't feel better until I had her.
Yeah.
And then like once you're pregnant and you're like moving, I was like, we'll do the marriage thing like way later.
Yeah.
And so that's just.
So I think it's interesting, right? Because I think, and this is like a whole other conversation, but I'm curious about your take on this, having done it and then now doing it a different way. I think sometimes people get married for the right reasons and sometimes people get married to get married. And I think whether that's like locking someone in or, feeling like this is the traditional way, this is whether it's like for religious reasons or for social norms or like whatever else it is, like there could be one of 100 reasons, right? I think that sometimes people do that and then they expect it to change things or they expect it to like be the thing that binds them. And I think that oftentimes I see this with weddings, surrounding weddings a lot, right? Like people that are super, super like diva about getting married and the wedding and the, it's like, is it the wedding or is it that you want to marry the person?
Yeah. Looking back on it, I have some PTSD from my wedding because I was just like, girl, you were so concerned with everything but
Getting married. Being married. Maybe.
Yes.
It's not getting married, it's being married.
Correct.
Because the thing that happens when you have a wedding is you're married.
Yes. And then I was so worried about that day of, and that's interesting to me, you know, knowing what I know now. But at the time, I didn't have any clue. And I was just doing what I thought was best. What about you?
What about me?
Like, did you feel the same way? Were you just concerned? Why did you get married? Was it because at the time it felt right? Or did you want the wedding? Was it societal norms?
I don't think, to be 100% honest, and I'm not saying this in a way like I'm proud of it, but I don't think I thought that deeply about it. I think I thought about it in the sense that like my parents were together for a million years. My mom was actually married before my dad. But my parents were together for a million years and were together until my dad died 6 years ago. So we're together for forever and they were each other's person. I grew up seeing it really work. I grew up seeing it really work out. I didn't have childhood trauma. I was like bullied, but I didn't have like true childhood trauma. I didn't have like parents that argued all the time. I had parents that loved each other. I had really close relationships with everybody in my family. And so I don't say that like carelessly and flippantly. I just had like faith in love. I had faith in like that things work out. And I don't think I deeply examined things the way that I would today. And again, that's not something, and I like would never regret that in a million years because I have Kinsley and she's the most amazing thing in the world. But I didn't deeply examine and think like long-term, how does this person handle stress or this or that? And it's like, I don't really talk about it. I don't really talk about him. I have nothing negative to say about him. He's Kinsley's dad at the end of the day, just not my person. And that's okay. But I think for me, it was this more realization of like, I thought I knew more than I knew and I didn't.
We kind of like maybe
you know?
Yeah. Are you sort of saying like, you just thought it would work out no matter what?
Yeah, I just thought it would work. And I didn't. I think now knowing what I know, I would have examined the situation differently and realized that we actually weren't compatible in so many ways.
Wow.
But like I hadn't had the life experience that I had now. I hadn't experienced adversity. So all that, like you're saying earlier, like you experience adversity and you know who you are. And it's like, there's been times in my life where I feel like I've beat my head against a wall, like with the same lesson. And I look back on it now and I'm like, dear God, girl, like, could have learned that one a little faster.
Right.
You know? And
right.
It's like it was just like one of those things where I hadn't experienced adversity and then everything changed for me. Like my dad died and like I had a kid and like all these things happened. It was like I had real adversity and I really grew into like a different human, I think. And so it just wasn't like I didn't have the life experience, I don't think, to sit there and be like, let me think if these things happen, like, because I hadn't experienced like bad things like that.
Yeah, you gotta get knocked on your ass.
Yeah, and I don't know if that sounds stupid, but it's like,
no, I think when you say it out loud like that, a lot of people listening think, oh, same.
And so I don't know. It's one of those things where it wasn't until recently where it's like, really could have learned that faster, sooner, and maybe a little, more elegantly.
But you weren't meant to. Very more demure.
Yeah, a little more demure.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I've sort of like evolved. I mean, I've evolved so much, right? And I'm sure that you can relate to that. But it's like I just am not the same person today than I was even a year ago. But I think that's the good thing.
That's the whole, yeah.
Like that's kind of the point.
Right, exactly. And so wait, what from like that period what are like the lessons that you're taking now? You want to get married again?
Yeah, I do now. I didn't know if that was always true. But
you didn't know if that was like in your cards?
Yeah, I just didn't know. Like, I didn't know how I feel about that as a whole, I think, just because, my experience wasn't. like the most incredible.
Right. But what are you looking for? What's your lesson that you take from the last one and you make sure to do differently?
I think at the end of the day, it's trust yourself. And I think that if something is right for you or not. And I think that I realized in those moments that I thought I knew things that I had no idea. Like, it's very humbling. Going through situations like that, I think it's very humbling. And so I feel like it's all about having the right person to do that with, because committing yourself and your life to someone is a very big deal. Make sure that you do that with the right person. It's not just like, ooh, someone wants to get married.
Yeah, fun.
It's not exciting.
No,
it's really not. It's like only if it's the right person.
It's very serious.
I think be so picky and hold yourself to a higher standard. I think like there were times in my life when like I thought I knew who I was and I didn't. And I don't think I realized that until really, really recently.
Do you trust yourself more now?
100%. I trust myself. I know what I want today, like without a doubt in my mind, but I didn't always. And I think like if I look back on times I didn't know what I want, or I thought I knew what I wanted, like really, I didn't examine it. And you know what I mean? I hadn't put in the thought and the time and the effort, and I hadn't like actually had the life experience to know what I wanted at all.
Right.
I would say like, don't get married too young if you have no life experience. Like, I don't think you can make that kind of decision, and I don't think you're in a rush.
Right.
And I would say that. And then I think like sometimes when you think you know everything, the most important thing that you can do is humble yourself and think, oh shit, I actually knew nothing at all.
But you probably wouldn't be able to say that had it not happened to you.
Right.
Because I was the same way. Like, adversity didn't have a lot of that under my belt, you know, until life.
And it's not like something I would wish on anybody.
No.
But it is just sort of, it's my path, right? And so I think like I've tried, there's been times in my life when I've tried to sort of like help other people through those experiences. I think at the end of the day though, you kind of have to experience life yourself.
Yes.
And my situation is different than yours and yours and yours. And I think trust your gut, trust your instincts. I think you always know. Like you always really know if you sit with yourself, like you said, sit in silence, sit still, really, really think your decisions through. Don't view things as just fun and exciting. Like really think it through. Because it's not always fun and exciting.
No. A lot of times it is the harder thing.
I think too, I would tell my younger self, like, there's actually nothing, being alone isn't lonely. There's nothing more lonely than being with the wrong person.
Oh.
There's nothing more suffocating than being with the wrong person. And so I would say just be patient.
That's powerful. Yeah. There is nothing more lonely than being with the wrong person.
So just be patient, and you don't have to do things in other people's timelines and other people's ways. And you know what? I think it's also really powerful to say, hey, I fucked up.
Yes. Owning,
it's like freeing.
Yeah. It's freeing, and it everybody else puts their guard down.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the most human things you can do.
I'm in a new chapter of life where I think, again, until recently, I feel like I thought I knew so much. And now I realize like there's so many things that I don't know.
Don't you think though, do you ever want to be done learning, like
all the time?
Yeah. Like
there's been so many times where like, even with this platform where when my dad died, it was like I have enjoyed being a resource for people who have gone through that because it is the hardest thing in the world, and I would not wish it on anyone. And there have been times in my life where I'm like, God, I don't want to be the poster child for this thing.
Right.
Pick someone else.
Why? Because it's painful, or
yes,
yeah,
it's painful. And by the way, like doing those things publicly, it's hard. And I think that you're judged at every turn, right? And it's always, I want to know more, share more. And then you share and people are like, you didn't do that right.
Right.
That's not right. You did this. And it's like, it comes to a certain point where it's like, I value my privacy now more than ever.
Really? More than
ever. More than ever.
So are you protecting it now more?
100%. Yeah. Because I think there's ways to share lessons that you've learned without like needing to share your personal inner details to things. And I think that took me maybe a long time to like.
But you wouldn't have learned it if you hadn't have done it the other way.
You wouldn't have learned it if you hadn't done it the other way. And that's life.
Yeah.
That's like the whole point, right?
Right. It truly is. And you also have the guts to do it one way. And then I think like a theme of like what we're talking about is like, we're also not afraid to fail because like we have.
Yes.
Also like not afraid to get hurt because like, I don't think you can hurt me worse.
Yeah. You can't be scared of taking the risk.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if I hadn't have made like certain choices, or if I hadn't have like failed at this or succeeded at this and gotten back up and tried at this, like one of the things I'm most proud of, and I feel like I sense that in you, is like resiliency.
Yes. Yes.
You want to succeed at life, be resilient. You want to succeed in business, be resilient. You want to succeed as a human, be resilient. Like that is maybe my number one piece of advice because it will always serve you. You can't be perfect, but you can be resilient.
Well,
I can't be perfect at least, but I can be resilient. That's all I got.
Yeah. Well, but don't you think too, though, if you never got the chance, listen, we were probably trying to be perfect and then life probably
That's what I'm saying. I was absolutely for sure perfectionist. I still struggle with that. Like this is something like lately in therapy, I'm like, oh shit, I'm real hard on myself. Like I really tried to do that well. And by really trying to do that well, I really did a shitty job at that.
Yeah. But that I think is like, the whole purpose of being resilient is then having to say, oh my God, yet again, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Not gonna be.
Constantly the death of the ego, which by the way, feels, I think, worse than like actual death. I'm like, oh God, again.
But the amount of times I saw somebody say this the other day, start putting yourself out there and it's like working out. The more you go to the gym, it hurts at the beginning, but then your muscles are used to it and you start to crave it.
Yes.
And craving it is, I say that with caution, of craving to put yourself online is not what I'm talking about by any
not
means.
Seeking that.
Exactly. But craving the art of putting yourself out there, doing things scared, knowing that, okay, I can either wonder what it would be like or do it. Same with divorce.
I think putting yourself out there, though, can look different, right? Putting yourself out there can look like going up and complimenting somebody's outfit that you might like be interested in talking to. Like that kind of thing can be putting yourself out there. It doesn't even have to be online, right? Like just put yourself out there, meaning like be open to what life has.
Ask your boss for a different role. Things like that.
Sort of like living in alignment with what you actually feel.
Yes. Reaching out to new friends.
And I think like too, if you're in a place like I've asked myself this really recently, this question, think about this. So take away your job, your role, your success, anyone else's opinion of you. Who are you? Just you.
Yeah. And
like you can't describe yourself by your job, by being a mom, by like, who are you?
And are we, because I'm assuming listeners also doing this, are we supposed to respond with like, like silly, like I am silly or what? Or
I guess whoever you are, right? Like if you are silly, then yeah. Like I got to the heart of that question. I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, I'm at my like truest core, like I'm creative.
Okay.
I like to create. Where's she been?
Oh,
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we get so caught up in like, got to get this done and do this thing and be this and be here and be there and be perfect. And it's like, when's the last time I just sat down and played piano?
Yeah.
When's the last time I drew something? I used to sketch in every notebook I had in high school. Like, who are you? So maybe like if being really silly is like integral to who you are, then yeah, that's the answer. You know?
Right. No, I think it's actually a really good question. When Harrison and I started dating, he said he always wanted to find somebody that if it was all stripped away and he was sitting on a porch, in Montana with no Wi-Fi, would he want to be sitting with that person?
Amen.
Yes. And I think about it all the time. If you weren't driving home and stopped at Walgreens and then XYZ and really stripped it all away. But I like your question of like, who are you? And you can't define yourself by what people think of you.
What people say about you, what people think about you, who you are to anyone else, your job, nothing. Because isn't that often what we say? Like if someone's like, hey, like who? You'd be like, oh, I'm Courtney Shields. I've been in this space for almost 12 years. I have a brand. It's called Dibs. I like blah, blah, blah.
Well, we all know our bios.
But that I didn't just tell you one single thing about who I am.
Right. Like
I told you who you think I am and who you know me to be, but I didn't say who I was.
Right.
And isn't that like a mind fuck?
It is. Is it Jay Shetty that says I am who I think you think I am? Like
I don't know.
I think it's him. Like I am.
He's cool.
Who I assume you think that I am. That's like who sits here, and like vice versa for all of us. And it's like, or, you're right. Okay. So remove it all. Remove, the hardest thing for people, remove your Instagram profile. No one's ever even seen you.
Remove your Instagram, remove your podcast, remove Barstool. Like, who are you? It's a harder question to answer because we get used to and programmed to saying, like describing ourselves through whether it's accomplishments or job and I think it's so natural. Everybody does it. But like I sat in a dark room and was like, creative. I'm creative. I'm empathetic. I like people. I like to talk to people. My friends are really important to me and my family is really important to me, making those connections. Okay. And then like through creativity is obviously how Dibs was born, but it's like, but at the root of that, it's not, I like makeup. It's, I like being creative and I like people. I like helping people feel good and confident. Like that's the root of all those things. Right. So it's almost like, it's weird when you strip it all away though.
So like the root of like why you do what you do. And it's not because you loved makeup. Does Dibs exist? It's because you're creative.
Look at my middle school self didn't feel pretty. I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel confident. I felt really different. And that was a time in my life when I didn't view feeling different as a good thing. And it wasn't until genuinely learning to love myself, which I can honestly say I didn't do until recently, or I did in points in my life and then I didn't, and then I did again. Right. And I think through being creative and like finding that outlet and like those were things that helped me like gain confidence. And I think I want to help instill that with other people. But it wasn't just like, I look pretty today. It was like, I feel creative because I learned to do something and I like how that turned out. And it felt like sort of like art on the face. And it was, oh, this is cool. And then I would do my friends' makeup and it would make them feel confident as, oh, that's cool. Like we're sitting there and we're having conversations and they just learned this new tip or trick that gave them the confidence and they go and do that interview and they get the job, whatever.
Right.
It was like sparked from something or like music. Okay. I love words and I love like literature. Okay. I haven't been reading at all. It like allows you to get to like the core of yourself.
Right. Wow. Yeah. It's really, so like online, why do you do that?
Well, that's been harder lately, I think, because that's the question I've been asking, right? And I think that started out, the core of that is the same. I like helping people and I like that dialogue. And I realized I was having those dialogues in real life. Okay, well, what if I put myself online like that? Could I have those dialogues to more people? Could more people learn where to put their bronzer? Could that make them feel confident? Could more people feel like less alone when they go through loss or whatever? Like, could I connect with more people through putting myself in a space where more people can find me?
Yeah, totally. But now you saying you're pulling back some is because you're going to protect that.
I think just my people, like protecting like the core of like what I do. I think sometimes that gets lost. And I think when you put yourself out there for long enough, it's like you do certain things and then you're like, okay, is this helpful? Are people connecting with this? Or is this like a vanity thing?
Yeah.
In some degree. And I think that there's probably a bit of both in there for most people.
Yeah. And I think that there has to be, I think sometimes people can listen to this and be like, oh, there should be no vanity. And it's like, no, it's okay. If there is a little, because that is what online is. That's the crux of it.
I think the key is like learning when to turn that off, because what I realized recently, and I did not mean to like sitting here making this about me. It's like a therapy session.
I'm loving it.
I think the point is like, I realized being online, you have to know when to turn it off or your identity will get wrapped up in it. And I think it itself is not negative. wrapping your identity in it, I think is.
I totally agree that it itself is not negative.
No.
A lot of people will be so quick to say like online is overwhelmingly positive.
I agree. I think you can have a lot of positive impact. You can connect with people you would have never connected with. Like,
yes,
it can be a really happy, beautiful space. It's people that ruin it, just like anything else in life.
Yeah, but
couple of bad eggs.
Always.
But I think overarchingly, it can be positive, but you have to yield that responsibly. Anybody listening, that's not me because I have a platform. That's anybody. I think you need to know your own boundaries. If yes. following somebody doesn't make you feel good, don't follow them.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, I don't like to be online now, like really late because I'm like, oh, my brain, I don't like that at night. Okay, leave my phone. Trying to like just connect, spend time. You know what I mean? Like those things make me happy. And then I'm excited to wake up and do it the next day.
Yes. Know your own boundaries. But yeah. And also know exactly like you had said, if there's somebody that's not positive for you to follow, you don't even have to you can mute them. They gave us that option now.
Love that for us.
It's great. It's a lot less aggressive.
Hot take. You don't have to tell somebody if you don't want to follow them anymore. You can just leave.
I love when people are like, I'm unfollowing.
I posted a picture with my daughter the other day with like an emoji on her face because I'm not into sharing her face anymore because people are creeps. Oh. And so I did that. And she's also just super beautiful. I know she's just going to she's special. I'm like, she's at an age where like she's not always with me and that's starting to creep me out.
Well, and she's recognizable when the older they get. Yeah.
Different than a baby. Like they're with you.
Right.
And you get it. And so I'm like, okay. And someone texted me, or someone DM'd me and they were like, well, that's weird. Like, not the vibe. Like that I'd put an emoji over her face. And it's like, it's so funny I didn't remember asking you.
Right. Correct.
You know?
Yes.
Have you had good reception to like sharing a lot of things, like overarchingly positive? Like how have things been received? Like doing things in a non-traditional way, in your way. Like it's very authentic to you, which is super obvious when you just like listen to you. But have you felt that, or have you felt like pushback from people because it's different than what they know?
I haven't liked online as much. I can't remember liking the online universe as much as I have lately since having a baby.
You have liked it more now.
I've loved it the most I've ever loved it.
Okay.
And I couldn't decide if I was going to share motherhood online or not.
Okay.
And I found a lot of peace in a lot of people that also weren't married to their partner.
Amazing.
Or also got pregnant fast.
Yeah.
And then I've had ups and downs with the online world of
naturally
like hate and love. And with this whole motherhood journey, has it been overwhelmingly love? And that's been I've really gravitated towards that and I really like it.
Amazing.
But I do check myself of like, I have to stay authentic with it.
Yeah.
Because I think moms to moms.
How do you check yourself?
It's just silence before I just
thought.
I oftentimes will like impulsively make a video. And so afterwards I'll sit on it and I'll just be like, did I mean that?
Yeah.
And then because I do think like one thing I noticed when I was pregnant was there was a lot online of unrealistic pregnancies. Like I couldn't find anybody that like I was really depressed while I was pregnant and anxious and
felt shitty and yeah.
And a lot of people were like, what I had thought pregnancy was like feeling really connected to your body and it was like this beautiful experience, but I didn't have that.
Mother Nature.
Yeah.
You're like, this sucks.
And I was like, I don't feel like myself, you know, and I struggled with that. Also, I was like newly dating someone. Mm-hmm. So I was like still trying to be like, you know, we're like in the honeymoon phase and I'm over here like, I feel like shit and I'm throwing up and gaining weight and I have no personality. And I'm just hoping he still loves me and like he is the best. But so that was really tough. And I couldn't find a lot of people to identify with that. And so I just thought maybe if I say it first.
Yeah. People are like, I agree.
Right. Or not. Or would they be like, what path have you chosen? And it's been really comforting and sweet to see people be like, you know, there'll be 50-year-old moms comment and be like, yeah, my kids are 20 and 25, but I also got pregnant after 2 months.
I think too, it's like, it sounds like finding your community, finding your people, which you can only do if you're authentically yourself.
It's people think content creating is like, you know, easy. And the hardest thing to do is actually be yourself. Like that's actually a good way for me to find out who I am.
Publicly be yourself.
Yes. And
because
really say.
you walk up saying like, you could cheer, you could throw tomatoes, you could hear, and here it is. Either way. And there will always be a bit of both. But I do think it's like you hit the nail on the head with being authentically yourself. A, people can tell. And B, I think that it's an evolution. Like I was being authentic 10 years ago. I'm just not that girl anymore.
Well, and to say that is authentic.
And I think like that's sort of what it comes down to, right? And it sounds like the same for you. But I think the only real way to be happy is being authentically yourself. Because then when people don't like it, that's okay.
And I don't mind if they throw tomatoes. Like, I think that's an important part of the equation.
But I feel like it's because you're authentically yourself.
Right.
When you aren't, times in my life when I've done things for other people, it's hard to receive the tomatoes.
Oh,
because you're like, oh, I hated it too.
Yes. And you're like, I'd throw tomatoes too. And like, I don't even stand by it. But if you stand by it, you're like, I'll take the tomato hit. Like, sorry, I meant it.
Yeah. And I think that's the line. Like, that's the difference. It's knowing this is who I am. And if you can do that, you can take the tomato. And if you can't do that, the tomato's a little more acidic.
And you're more likely, exactly, and it, it stains, but you're more likely to say,
I didn't like those pants anyway.
You know what? I hated them. That's exactly, but you're more likely to say, I'll do it again. Because the tomatoes last time they were fine.
Yeah.
And so I'll do it again and I'll be my true self, take it or leave it. Instead of being so afraid, like, when I think you don't put your true self out there is when you are afraid of the tomatoes. So you're
totally.
like,
I've done that.
Let me just put this like people pleaser video out.
Done that.
Falls flat.
Done that.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Oh, me too. Oh, you're trying to avoid it. People know.
Oh yeah. People know. And it's also because then you're not hitting any bucket.
Yes.
Then you're not being authentic for the people that fuck with you.
Yes.
And you're still not pleasing the people that are committed to hating you because they're just that they love it. Mm-hmm. They love to hate you either way.
That's your friend to what is it? Friend to no one.
Yeah.
Friend to everyone.
All is a friend to no one.
When I first started, our first producer, our first Mean Girl producer, her name was Alana, and she told us, because we would get some hate comments, we would get some love comments. And she would say, that's perfect because the worst thing you can do is make people feel nothing. And I always thought,
brilliant,
stuck with me forever, right? Because you got to have the hate comments because anybody that's anything,
they're passionate.
They're passionate. People are going to hate them.
They're passionate either way.
But imagine people feeling nothing about you.
Oh,
that would be the worst thing you could do. They can love you, they can hate you, but they cannot feel. It's the Drake lyric too, love and hate, but just don't feel indifference.
Don't you think though that sometimes the biggest haters are actually the people that are like the most obsessed?
People will hate on episodes, but it'll be an hour-long episode and they're hating on the 57th minute. And I thought you listened to the whole thing.
I hate on the 57th minute.
I'm like, was buried in the back and you're mad about it, but you don't miss an episode. You listen to the whole thing. You
cared so much. You wrote the review.
You need them. I've never left a review.
Same.
I couldn't care less.
Same.
But these people I'm like, oh yeah.
No, they were balls deep in that hate.
Yes. Don't stop. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, oh, you're so bored.
Oh, so bored.
You care?
I envision people like, this is like so specific, but I envision people that leave like nasty hate comments about nothing in their their parents' basement because they don't have their own place. So they're in their parents' basement and they're just like, there's like this pictures of you on their wall, like push pinned in with strings of like, look what she did last week. And she said she ate this for lunch, but look what she just posted at 2 p.m. Liar.
Right. Yes. And they're not on their phone. They're on a keyboard in the basement. Like,
yeah, but the chunky ones, the chunky keyboards, not the pretty old Apple ones, like the beige gray kind.
Correct. And it's like a real monitor.
With a mouse pad.
Yeah.
And they're down there clicking.
Right. Like clicking. And they think so much about you.
It's dark in there. And there's some sort of like stew maybe. But then they're down there.
It's not glamorous.
And I think the other thing they do with their free time is catfish people.
They do.
I think maybe they've got a dating app. Maybe they've got like, I don't know, they're messaging someone that they've been avoiding for 2 months, but like told they would go on a date with because they don't want to show up as themselves. And so it's really not about us. All that to say.
No, and mom made dinner
and she maybe slid it down the stairs because she doesn't want to hang out with you either.
No, and there's one window.
One window, but barely any light gets in.
And you work from home.
And the cot is hard.
Yes.
And it's hard down there. And so look, I think at the end of the day, if you're that type of person, your own life is prison enough.
No question.
And so I get that you want to hate on other people because maybe it feels like this small escape to you.
No, it's no problem.
But I do feel sad for people like that.
Exactly. And like, I would never log on and be like, okay, this
couldn't be me.
Rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, oh, okay, didn't like it.
And I'm leaving.
Yeah. Okay, it's not the airport. Yeah. Like, you don't need to let us know when you're departing.
You have exited security. You are safe to go.
Not missing you.
Oh my God.
Care less.
And, I think the key to enjoying it still is focusing on all the positive because there is so much.
I think it's a 1 to 50 ratio. I really think online, I think people are good. I think most people I think there's times when you miss the mark and or something goes super viral and, people do get in there.
Completely.
But most of the time.
And sometimes those comments are funny.
They are hilarious.
Like when people like dog on me for videos I've made, I'm like, I gotta get it. I get it. Like, I'll give that to you. I'll give that one to you and win this time.
The internet's undefeated. The comment section is often the best part.
Oh God. Yeah.
And they're so funny. Like people that comment are hilarious.
No. Yeah. There are some really good ones.
And you got to take it with a grain of salt.
And you're like, you know what? I agree, Mary. You got me on that.
I'll pin it.
You got me on that, babe.
Exactly. They'll just dunk on you.
But like mostly overarchingly positive. And I think that's what's important.
Totally. If it wasn't, I don't think anybody would still be doing what they were doing.
Fair. You got to have a thick skin.
Yes, but I love it. I love having the thick skin. So I'm like,
harder to get cold. Stay warm in this bitch.
Exactly.
Tell people where they can find you.
At just Alex Bennett on all platforms. The just is like actually part of it.
I love that because, by the way, I've said that accidentally in this episode. Like, it's like, okay, just Alex because we're ditching the other last name and this last name. And it's like, so it works.
And I knew it before I knew it, I grabbed
the real gut.
Yes. I grabbed
the social gut
a long time ago, but yes.
Well, I hope that guy in wherever foreign country he lives in will give you your new name back.
Me too.
On that handle.
If you're listening, Alex.
Godspeed.
Thank you.
Alex, whoever you are.
Yeah. I don't know his last name.
Thank you for being here. This was so fun.
Thank you for having me.
I've got to go pick up Kins from school, but I could sit here and chat forever. So I'm cutting myself off.
Oh, well, same. Tell her I said hi.
I will. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.